Okay, welcome. Thank you everyone for coming out tonight. This is the Vermillion Local School District Board of Education regular meeting for Tuesday, February 20th. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Haberman.
Here.
Mrs. Evans. Here. Mrs. Russell. Here. Mr. Starr.
Here.
Mrs. Stepp. Here.
So the first thing we'd like to do is invite all of our citizens of the month to come up. I want to recognize a lot of great students that have been nominated by their teachers in school buildings. This one's mine, that's why she's up here. All right, so you guys remember the deal, right? We're going to step up and answer a few questions, and then you go right back to the end of the line, okay? All right. Step up there. Okay, what's your name?
Sophie.
And what grade are you in?
Second.
Who's your teacher?
Mrs. Bailey.
And what do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be a dolphin trainer.
Haley, what grade are you in?
Third.
What would you like to be when you grow up?
A gymnast.
Very nice. What's your name?
Addie.
Addie, what grade are you in?
First.
Who's your teacher?
Mr. Miller and Mrs. Y.
What would you like to be when you grow up?
A vet.
Very good. What's your name?
Natalie.
Hi, Natalie. What grade are you in?
First.
Who's your teacher?
Mrs. Sprinkle.
What would you like to be when you grow up?
Gymnastics. Teacher.
Teacher. What's your name?
Peppa.
What grade are you in? First grade. Kindergarten.
Kindergarten.
There you go. Who's your teacher?
Mrs. Bone.
What would you like to be when you grow up?
Teacher chef.
Very nice.
Sophia.
Hi, Sophia. What grade are you in?
First.
Who's your teacher?
Schultz.
And what would you like to be when you grow up?
An artist.
Awesome. What's your name? What grade are you in, Beckham?
Kindergarten.
And who's your teacher?
Mrs. Boone.
Miss Spoon's awesome, isn't she? And what would you like to be when you grow up?
A teacher.
Very good. All right, Trey, I know. What's your name?
Trey.
What grade are you in, Trey?
Second.
Who's your teacher?
Mrs. Garcia.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Baseball player. Baseball player.
Awesome. Certainly hope you want to be president when you grow up. What's your name?
Landon.
Landon, what grade are you in?
Second.
Who's your teacher?
Miss Howers.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
A president.
Awesome. What's your name?
Morgan.
Hi, Morgan. What do you want to be when Tom? Sorry. You got me almost. What grade are you in?
Second.
Who's your teacher?
Miss Becca.
And what do you want to be when you
A
grow up?
professional soccer player.
Great.
Kaya.
And what grade are you in?
Kindergarten. Mrs. Karis.
And what do you want to be when you grow up?
Scientist.
Great. What's your name?
Isabella.
Hi, Isabella. What grade are you in?
Third.
Third. And who's your teacher?
Mrs. Parker.
And what would you like to be when you grow up?
A veterinarian. Ashton.
Say Ashton. What grade are you in?
Third.
And who's your teacher?
Miss Truax.
And what would you like to be when you grow up?
An engineer.
What's your name? Okay, and what grade are you in?
Second.
And who's your teacher?
Miss Bailey.
And what would you like to be when you grow up?
A doctor.
Awesome. What's your name?
Mackenzie.
Hi, Mackenzie. What grade are you in?
Kindergarten.
Kindergarten. And who's your teacher?
Mrs. Walker.
And what would you like to be when you grow up?
A teacher.
Teacher. Awesome.
Joey.
Hi, Julie. What grade are you in?
Kindergarten.
And who's your teacher?
Mrs. Killis.
And what would you like to be when you grow up?
A single.
Very good. What grade are you in?
Kindergarten.
Who's your teacher?
Mrs. Love.
And what would you like to be when you grow up? We'll think about it. How's that? You good? All right. Good job.
Chloe.
Gradient.
Second.
And who's your teacher?
Miss Gonzalez.
What do you want to do when you grow up?
Scientist.
Great. Couple of us.
Lillian.
Lillian, what grade are you in?
Second.
Who's your teacher?
Miss Gonzalez.
And what do you want to be when you grow up?
Teacher.
Very good.
Teacher.
What grade are you in?
Second.
And who's your teacher?
Miss Garcia.
What would you like to do?
Car builder.
Awesome. What's your name?
Jaden.
What grade?
Third.
And who's your teacher?
Miss Murray and Mr. Olson.
And what would you like to be?
A singer and dancer.
Awesome. What's your name?
Carly.
Hi Carly, what grade are you in?
First.
And who's your teacher?
Miss Looks.
And what do you want to be when you grow up?
A veterinarian.
Good job. What's your name?
Madeline.
What grade are you in? Who's your teacher? Mrs. Lowe? So I bet you're kindergarten, right? What do you want to be when you grow up?
A rock star.
Me too. Last but not least, right? What's your name?
Paxton.
And what grade are you in?
Kindergarten.
And who's your teacher?
Mrs. Bartolome.
What would you like to be when you grow up?
A football player.
Awesome. Good job. All right, if everyone could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. These guys are going to lead us. Ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll move on and continue on. Lots of seats available now for those that are staying. We'd like to. We're gonna jump in and do something else different. All right, we're gonna slot something into our agenda here. We've got a guest tonight, Alex Jones from the auditor's office, to present the district with an award, I believe.
I was really nervous I was going to have to do this whole presentation on my knee. First of all, I just want to say how much of an honor it is to be here tonight on behalf of State Auditor Dave Yost. Most of the time when the State Auditor's office shows up, it's not with good news. Tonight, however, is an exception to that rule. My duty here tonight is to present the district and treasurer with the Auditor of State Award, which is one of the highest awards that you can get as a government official keeping the books. First of all, I just want to say that this is a very, very prestigious thing. There's not a lot of school districts that get this. You know, we audit over 6,000 clients in the state of Ohio, and the fraction that receive this award is really just surprising. So you guys are doing great work. The Treasurer's Office has set up a very, very efficient and clean organization. So really, you need to tip your hats to your treasurer because she's doing a wonderful job. In order to receive this award, and I will use the stand here so I can read, but in order to receive this award, a district has to receive a clean audit and file according to the GAAP. The clean audit report means that your financial audit did not contain findings for recovery, material citations, material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, or single audit findings and question costs. Now that's just fancy terms for saying you can't have problems with your books, and you guys have done a wonderful job. So on behalf of Auditor Dave Yost, it does bring me a lot of pleasure to present this award to Suzanne Wilson, the treasurer of the Vermillion Local School District. Congratulations.
Thank you, Alex. You want to get a picture?
Usually don't.
I don't know if you want to open it or not.
Yeah.
There's the award there.
Okay. Awesome. Congratulations. Thank you. Suzanne, congratulations. That's a great award, and it's really, like Alex said, a reflection on your office. So outstanding. Thank you. Item 5 on our agenda is a student liaison update.
So we have Mr. Hayes here, who is, he teaches the STEM classes at Vermillion Elementary School. I was like, I lost him. So he's going to give us a presentation on the STEM classes. I got to go in there one day a few weeks ago and see what he was doing with some of the students, and it was a really cool thing. They were given these cars and had to figure out how to make these objects move without actually touching them, using magnets or wind, and then kind of report back and see what they could fix. And it was really neat watching the students kind of work through that. So he's going to give us a presentation on that tonight.
So this is, I believe, it's the 6th year that we've transitioned away from what we used to call the traditional computer class to the STEM class at the elementary level. And I was really happy to hear that we had a lot of students that were looking to become something in the STEM field during our introductions here today. So what you're going to see is kind of a microcosm of what happens in the elementary STEM classroom. You're going to see a lot of students building things, students that appear to just be working on computers, but what a lot of them are doing on the computers is actually elementary level computer programming. Okay, we start with computer programming in kindergarten. They'll be working with robotics, working with circuitry, and you'll see all that through the video, and it'll kind of talk about some other things about STEM in general throughout the presentation. To my classroom, it probably looks like a lot of small children playing with things. But actually, that is how children at this age kind of discover technology. They're building with blocks, teaches them spatial reasoning, problem solving, logical thinking. You saw kindergartners playing with jigsaw puzzles. Seems like something very simple, but computer coding is actually nothing more than putting a puzzle together. So you start with the very basics of it, and that's kind of what you were seeing there. You even had students taking computers apart and things of that nature. So that's what's going on in the elementary STEM classroom.
Very great. Thank you.
Do you have any openings in the class with extra large seat?
Yeah. Welcome anytime to come on in and play with us.
Next time you need computers to take apart, I'm sure my wife will be happy to donate the 5 or 6 I got in my basement.
Oh, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Good job, Mr. Hayes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 6, legislative update.
Senate Bill 8 has passed, and it's school infrastructure and technology. What this is it requires Ohio School Facilities Commission to establish a program assisting school districts in purchasing technology and making physical alterations to improve technology infrastructure and school safety and security. And that starts March 28th. Other than that, I've got a bunch of other little things, but they're all just bills that are kind of hanging in there trying to be passed. So that's really the only one that's new.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Item 7 was an executive session that we threw on the agenda. We're going to bump that to the very end of the agenda so that we don't have to go out and come back. We can push that out. So item 8 is recommend a resolution to award an administrative contract to Justin Klingshirn as treasurer from March 19th, 2018 through July 31st, 2020 at a salary of $95,000 per year.
I'll move.
I'll second. Go ahead.
I'll second.
For the benefit of those in the audience, Suzanne Wilson, our recently awarded treasurer, is retiring at the end of March. So we'd like to thank her for her time in Vermillion and for obviously the great shape she's leaving the office in. We spent the last several weeks working with North Point ESC to kind of put an extensive search out there for her successor, and we think we found a really good one. Justin Klingshirn is coming to us from Cuyahoga Falls, right? And would you mind stepping up and giving us about 2 minutes on yourself? Sure. Thank you.
Put me on the spot right now.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
School treasurer.
No, just a little bit about who you are and where you come from.
Sure. My name is Justin Klingshirn. I live in Avon, Ohio. Currently I'm the treasurer at Cuyahoga Falls, which is down in Summit County. Prior to joining Cuyahoga Falls as their treasurer, I actually worked at the auditor's office. I conducted performance audits. Basically what we would do is go into school districts and develop financial recovery plans, making communication a little bit easier through administration with the Board of Education and out to the public. While at Cuyahoga Falls, we passed our levy. Hadn't passed one in almost 10 years. Won an award for financial reporting through the Association of Governmental Accounting Office. Put together a great strategic plan, and then a lot of those things I can bring to the school district here and help out with. I have great shoes to fill here with Suzanne. Thank you for putting the financial reporting together and having everything in place. I look forward to joining you, school board, and administration. Other than that, I got a wife in Avon. I have a giant golden retriever. His name's Barley. Let's see if I can bring him around sometime. Other than that, welcome to be here. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Barry.
Any other discussion? All right, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
Mrs. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. Habermill?
Yes.
Mr. Stark?
Abstain. Since he's going to be my wife's direct boss. Not that I don't want you.
Mrs. Stepp?
Yes.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
Item 9, Superintendent's Report. Mr. Pemplin is actually tied up in a meeting and will probably join us at some point tonight. Mrs. DeLees, do you want to cover some of his things? Or?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, I can do that. Actually, number one, I think we're going to have to hold off until March. I don't believe that contract came through for us to look at based on conversation. Number two, school safety, and I think Officer Beckwith is here. You know, he'll jump in and help, you know, in light of recent events with last week, and then, you know, there was a lot of stuff on social media and not everything was accurate, but there's certain things that we do here at Vermillion local schools that we want to share with everybody, just in case you're not sure of what we do here in the local school district. And two of the most important things, any type of research that you see, is building relationships with students. So building those relationships and being proactive versus reactive, and making sure that we have sound structure to avoid any possible incident to the best of our ability. It's almost impossible to say you'll always avoid it, but we have certain things that we do to help prevent. And we're really lucky. We have 3 high school counselors for 800 students, which if you look at a lot of the schools in our area, usually that would be 2 counselors. So having 3 counselors at the high school really drops that student counselor ratio. We have 2 counselors at the middle school. We have 1 at the elementary. So a lot of times the students are building personal relationships, and those counselors get to know those students better because their caseload is a lot smaller than if there were only 2 here. So, and the same at the middle school. So we're very fortunate that way. A lot of times, things that come to us from students come to their school counselor first. Those students are reporting to the school counselor, and that's how it ends up in the administration's hands. We have worked really close, and I do believe the other buildings have as well. Sandy Hook Promise, and back in the fall we were talking about our relationship with Actively Caring for People. Sandy Hook Promise has the See Something, Say Something. We made that part of our PBIS, which is the positive behavioral supports. But the big thing is See Something, Say Something. And we really are encouraging kids. A lot of times they don't want to get their friends in trouble, you know, and they know right from wrong, but they know if they say something, there's that possibility of getting them in trouble. And we're really trying to break that barrier of keeping our children safe and being comfortable telling somebody. And we do think that those relationships that we're talking about and having the staff, we have nurses in all of our buildings. Believe it or not, a lot of kids can, come down and see the nurse and confide in the nurse, so that's helpful. We have, here at the high school, we do bring in Lacataway, and they work with students on prevention, and they actually come in and do life skills for us, for some of our 8th graders, most of our 8th grade class, and they're here to work with small groups of students. You know, we get parent permission and they're usually referred to by the counselors. We also have Firelands in all of our buildings. So Firelands counseling, those counselors can make referrals and reach out to the families. And if the families, you know, Firelands will reach out to them, there's an intake. We actually even provide them space in our building to hold those counseling sessions. Because a lot of times we're busy and we know parents are, and trying to get them to 100 appointments and working is hard. So we have now opened up our buildings. I think Fireland's been here at the high school 3 or 4 years. I'm not sure. Is that about right? Move to Stand. We have a large Move to Stand anti-bullying program here at the high school, where it's actually been, it started with a very small group of kids and it's grown to about 150, which is an 1/8 of our population, which is huge. And so that continues to grow, and we're continuing to train other districts. Our kids are going to Huron, they're going to Perkins to train their schools. So that's a huge testament to our counseling staff. We have an awesome SRO, Officer Beckwith, that honestly all of us administrators work very, very closely with, because anytime a threat would come into the school, we are under obligation to report that to the authorities. We have to do that. So we work close with Brian. Is there anything you want to say?
Well, I want to say this last week, with everything happening in Florida, I mean, it has been...
Hey, why don't you come up here first? Yeah.
A little easier. You got a lot of voice. I'm Officer Beckwith, Vermillion Police. In response to everything that was going on in Florida, we did receive several threats through the school system. Those threats were addressed and handled. Any of the students who had heard them firsthand, they were all spoken to, and their parents were notified as well. It's typical standard protocol anytime we get an incident such as that. Any credible, legitimate threat. Anyone that we figure out is just hearsay, we still investigate it to the most extensive that we can. We treat every situation as if it is the actual thing and not just an off-the-cuff statement. Some of them end up being off-the-cuff statements. Someone's angry, it ends up, they say something they can't take back. But, you know, we don't take any of those lightly. Every single one of those has to be dealt with the same way. And I'm happy to take quite a bit of pride in how we actually address those situations. We run in ALICE training. All our teachers here are ALICE certified. We do run a free ALICE training scenario to the public, so you guys could, if you wanted to attend that. Anyone is allowed to. It's completely free. I do that once a year. So that's something that's an option in light of everything that happened. Because I did notice some people seem to be quite a bit concerned about what to do in a situation such as that. So I do offer that as an option. I did see a lot of parents, a lot of students came to me based on some statements that weren't substantiated, and that's okay. That's great. I get students that are coming up to me saying, I heard from so-and-so that a statement was made. That's exactly what I want these students to be doing. We investigate every one of those. Just so happens to be that one of them that we investigated hasn't quite panned out to anything yet. All it is at this point is rumors, and that's one that some people are pretty vocal about, which is okay.
So the kid down in Parkland was just hearsay and all that stuff.
So,
what are they doing?
Well, yes, which is exactly...
It's going to be taken seriously, and these kids realize the effect that they're having and what they're doing when kids are dead.
Right. Well, we had to handle these things on a case-by-case basis. Every single one is investigated to the... Every single one is investigated to the utmost sincerity. We don't take any of these for granted. Anytime even an off-the-cuff statement is made, we don't consider it an off-the-cuff statement at the time. We investigate it thoroughly. We talk to everybody involved or anybody that even heard of a rumor. We investigate those. If they say they heard it through a friend, we talk to their friend. If that friend heard it from a friend, we talk to that friend. outside of that, as law enforcement, there's really not much else we can do.
That's where we can make a change, I think.
Okay. Well, like I said, I mean, these things do have to be handled on a case-by-case basis, and everyone deserves a right to be safe.
So if the kid asks, or the kid admits to you that they made a threat or something in that nature, when do you prosecute that? I mean, or when do you arrest this kid?
Well, like I said, it's a case-by-case basis example, but if I do have an incident where a student admits to making a direct threat, I handle it accordingly. I can't tell you that each individual case, I mean, legally I can't tell you what happens in each one. But I can say that typically when I get a threat, typically a charge is involved. So,
And what is the school do?
well, there's two different components to this, and it gets a little bit confusing. There's the legal component, and then there's the school component. They deal with things on their end. Sometimes they can't deal with it if it's done off school grounds. Then it's only a police issue. If it is done on the school grounds and it is a legal issue, we work hand in hand, but at the same time we're separate. So with what I do is different from what they do as a school. But at the same time, I take every incident very seriously.
Well, as a parent, I'm pretty sick of like the slap on the wrist, you know, for these serious events.
Right.
You know, I definitely think that some of these kids should be made an example.
Well, I can completely understand your feelings on it, but I'd like to know which one we're referring to when we say slap on the wrist, because to be frank with you, I take every single one of these very seriously.
Well, that goes for the school as well. You know, 3 days suspension, 5 days suspension, 10 days suspension. No, you're out. You think the next child will think twice about making comments.
Right.
Well, in school, you know, and just speaking, there's the criminal aspect, there is the school aspect. We, you know, there are a lot of factors that go into, we have to follow our handbook, and our handbook is online. And so when a student has broken one of the rules of the handbook, at the high school, at the middle school, at the elementary, the administrators look into it, we investigate whatever that is. We have to have facts, and we deal with facts, and we make the recommendations, you know, depending on whether it's a Friday school, a suspension, a suspension with recommendation for expulsion. There's only, and you have to remember too, and I'm just saying this, we have to still follow IDEA, and I'm not saying, you know, if there is a student that's identified, there are laws that we have to follow. That student isn't exempt from being protected under IDEA, and those are things that we have to deal with here at the school end, and we want every single child that comes through our school building to feel safe. And they cannot learn if they're not safe, but there are also other requirements that we have to adhere to.
I'm sure it also depends on past history too. You know, if it's for a repeat offender. That's
right. And when I talked about all of the
zero tolerance, I don't get that.
Yeah,
zero tolerance. You threaten somebody, I'm sorry, you should be kicked out of school. I don't get that. Everybody preaches zero tolerance, but that goes wayside when stuff like this.
Well, our goal is to also not just say you're out of our school or out of our district. Our goal is to help them and support them, and we have a lot of resources. So it's, you know, of course we want everybody to be safe, and if we feel that that child has to be removed from our building within the laws, we will do that. But there are times that we have to reintegrate that child and bring them back and provide them the supports that we have in place to give them what they're entitled to, and that's a public education.
And the other component to this too, as a law enforcement agent, I have to prove somebody did something wrong, right? I'm bound by law. I have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that person did whatever it is I charge them with. So that being said, I have to investigate every single one of them and prove that it is what they said. I can't just go off you know, one person said this person said this, but then they heard it through a friend, they didn't hear it directly. There's not much I can do about those, besides maybe talk to everybody involved and investigate it to as deep as I can.
All right, so in the heard that one kid got suspended. I don't know for sure. But I would assume that one of these incidents was substantial.
I can tell you that I investigated several of them. One of them, only one of them was not substantiated. That was the only one I did not address on a legal perspective.
Okay, and in a legal perspective, what do you do? What happens?
They receive a criminal charge. And then the follow-through comes through. They either get brought to the DH, they either get brought to an emergency psychological evaluation. There are several routes we can go depending on the circumstance for each individual. I can tell you that one of those routes were taken for each one of those incidents. So I did see too, and I'd like to address it, there was a Facebook post and there were a lot of upset parents, which I understand. A lot of the material in which the parents were upset about, I can say that that was based off of an unsubstantiated rumor. We've spent a great deal of time on those rumors. I handled at least 2 phone calls today after school. So we're going through the motions in every single one. We take everyone seriously.
Well, I'm glad that you're doing what you're doing. I just, I feel horrible as a parent thinking about this. I had a son that didn't go to the dance Saturday because of this,
Right. Well, I can understand in recent light of issues that took place in Florida, namely. But we're not the only school district dealing with this. I know Elyria is. I know several other surrounding schools are having the same issue we are. Every time a major active shooter incident in a school takes place, these things happen. Threats start coming out. There's not much we can do about addressing the threat before it happens, besides talking to the students, being active, everything we can do ahead of time, but it's a shot in the dark as to if we're actually going to get threats outside of that or not.
And Brian, continuing to encourage students and parents, if you hear something, if something's not right, even if it's just, just call us. We will take those phone calls. Maybe there's not a whole lot we can do with it at that time, but we will take notes, we will listen. If there is something, and it's the students. They know a lot of stuff. They hear a lot of stuff. They're spending a lot of time with their peers. I cannot encourage our young people more than saying, today's day and age, please tell a trusted adult so that this information can get to the right hands.
I applauded each and every one of those students that came to me with an unsubstantiated rumor because they came to me. That's the thing I'm trying to instill in all these kids. Come talk to me. If you see something, say something. It's a case in point example. Because if I don't know anything about it, I can't do anything with anything I don't know anything about.
How often do you guys do these drills that are supposed to be done?
Which drill are you referring to?
Like shooter coming into the school, stuff like that.
Well, we perform lockdown drills as needed per the state level. If that's what you're talking about.
So, do you know what the requirement is?
To me.
Yeah, we do minimal, there are minimal state, we're required to do 9 fire drills, we're required to do so many tornado drills, we're required to do so many, we have them, they're called shelter in place, reverse evacuation, and lockdown. Lockdown is an actual active shooter scenario. We have, I think a couple years ago, we did train all of the students, all of the staff were trained in Alice. Those are things that we have to continually practice. And there is a lot of debate on doing these active shooter trainings with students in the building. You want to prepare them, you want to prepare the teachers, but I think we know that practice is very important.
Well, it's scary to the kids too. I mean, it's a fine line you have to balance because sometimes when you perform a drill, it's not what they expected it to be. Sometimes when you teach things to the kids, it's not what they expected it to be. It's something you have to be careful with in training kids. You kind of have to move them up to it. We did perform evacuation drills, tests that we did through I believe the teachers and the staff. They all performed one as if it was an actual scenario.
those were not mandatory. In
Yeah.
fact, the ALICE training was not mandatory either. Excuse my speech, but I have Bell's palsy right now, so my face is like half paralyzed, so excuse my speech. So, but the ALICE training, that was not mandatory by the state. That's something that we decided to do as a district because we felt the need. Pardon me?
It's done yearly?
No, that's a training that was done with the staff, and it was done with our administrative team. And we actually ran out scenarios then with our administrative team where we shot guns off in the school so that we knew what that sounded like with the staff. Those are all extra things that are not mandatory by the state. And so we have went above and beyond in many cases and tried to act out these scenarios that.
I do applaud that, but I mean, at the school, I would think, okay, here's the minimum. Let's do close to the maximum.
Well, we agree with that. Philosophically, we agree with you. And I can tell you, though, that the maximum, just as I've talked to the board, is even that's not enough in these circumstances and this day and age. You could literally spend it's a full-time job, and I'm not minimizing or trying to make light of the situation, but it's a difficult situation that this entire country is in, obviously, right now, because you feel like you can never do enough to be prepared.
The kids that are allowed to leave and then come back.
What's done with what?
The kids, are they being monitored, or their bags being searched when they come back into the school after they can leave for lunch, or they leave for any reason and they can just come back in, like when they have passes to leave?
I can tell you, I've been in a school district that has had the metal detectors, and that's not effective because a kid can bring, any door at some time could be opened, and that had just negated millions of dollars. It depends on the size of the school district.
Everywhere.
Pardon me?
You've got cameras everywhere, every door on lockdown except for the front door.
And they are. The doors are on lockdown.
That door's open, it sounds off an alarm saying this door's open.
Yeah, and that is one of the upgrades that we are making, is to put the alarms on every door. Unfortunately, those things do cost money, and we have planned for those things to be added to our system so that when you do go out any one of these doors here, that an alarm will sound.
And you can see who's going in and out.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to go out that door, you have to go out this door.
And those are in the plans to be added. Those are part of the upgrades that we're consistently looking at, that we can make it better. I'd be lying to you if I said that we're perfect right now. No, we're not. No school district is.
We do as parents and, community to make these kids feel safe.
Of course.
These kids don't feel safe going into school.
Tell your kids to tell Officer Beckwith if he hears anything.
I'm always in the schools. During the school day, when the schools are in session, I'm here. I'm walking around. If they can't find me, I always encourage students to go up to the front desk if they have anything, even if it's not needed, even if it's not something that they have to speak to me about. I'm always open to talk to the kids.
All of us have or have had or will have school kids in the district. So, we're, not only are we worried about our kids, we got to worry about all of your kids too. So, that's 2,600 gray hairs. So, but yeah, we really do care. We really do a lot to keep them safe. We don't want them feeling like they're going to school into prison. We can put fences up, the barbed wire, and TSA guards at the door, but that's not going to help them learn. We want to give them a good learning environment.
I have a suggestion. I know there's a lot of incidents, and incidents that parents don't know about. But when something becomes, very public, I don't see what it would hurt, like to send a letter out to the parents to describe what you're doing to prevent these things from happening. Not everybody gets like on the website and goes through the handbook, but a simple letter to go out saying these are the things that we're doing.
A text message. Everybody has a phone. Just send out, hey, we've got this situation under control. Whatever. There was an incident today. It doesn't have to be specific, but everything can.
See,
just as simple as that.
Yeah, we understand your concern, and we think about those things. It's not that we don't think about what you're requesting. But then there's the other side of that too. As Mrs. DeLees mentioned, you do have laws and rules and regulations and IDEA, which is the special ed laws, and there's only so much, there's a line sometimes that you have to think about. How much information do you give? You're not going to put this school district and this community in jeopardy, that we're going to have a lawsuit that's filed against us because we've given out too much information. And then there's that fine line where you need to know as a parent, and you're concerned as a parent and want to know what is happening too. So I put a letter out to everyone on the website today and on Facebook, and I understand that not everyone has that. And what I did say though within that letter that I put out was, if there is any doubt in our mind that there's going to be major jeopardy that's going to happen to our student body as a whole, we are going to notify you by letter and by those means too, that not everyone can get, that has access to it, they'll get that. But that's where we have to make that decision.
You're not going to know until it happens.
Pardon me?
I mean, you're not going to know it's a serious event until something happens.
Well, that's true. I mean, if a serious event happens, you're going to need to be notified about that. And these incidents that occurred today weren't substantiated enough with the type of information that we were getting that we would have put that type of letter out. That we believe that that decision didn't justify that letter, because sometimes the more that you can put out on a situation that doesn't have that much of a substantiation of an issue or a problem can cause more of a panic, unfortunately, and more issues. And so there's a line that we walk there, and we're not attempting in any way to hold back information from you, but we're trying to make that judgment as best as we can. It's not an easy decision to make, and all we can ask from you is that you trust us that we do have the best interest of your kids in mind. Safety is number one here, and it has to be. And we have to keep practicing. And I think the best thing that I could do is, if you don't have access to Facebook or you don't have access to the website, I will, perhaps that letter, do you have it there, Lisa? It was supposed to be at my desk. A lot of the things that were on the link, I'm going to copy the link, and maybe that letter can go home. I'll make something up in this regard, not make it up, but I'm going to use this article that was in this, that is connected to this site, or to this letter that I put out, and we're going to put out a general letter tomorrow. We'll send that home to everybody saying that this is the general news about what's happening, and that will hopefully help to make people feel more comfortable about this.
One other piece to it.
It's a tough situation right now. Obviously, everyone is at a heightened sense of awareness because of this, and you have your most precious asset in our school, and we understand that, and that means everything to us. And we have board members that have their own children here, and this is a tough situation that we're all going through, and it's terrifying as a parent. I've got grandkids now that are, in schools. My own kids are not, but it's not. I don't feel comfortable. We talked about it today as our jobs. Really, we're starting to, we're in a situation right now that, as employees, that we've never felt like we've been in this situation before. It is getting worse and worse, and we're seeing this more often. And I didn't used to not feel safe when I came to work, but it's starting to get to that point where I think we're all starting to feel that. Your kids are coming home saying that they don't feel safe. We're in a situation right now where schools look like they're starting to become the target, and it's a horrible feeling. And anything that we can do here as a board, as a staff, as a community, we want to do everything we can.
And as a community, if you have ideas, call the school, call us, let us know. You know, I mean, I went to a seminar in Columbus for the school board, and they, you know, I sat in on a district that harms some of the staff. You know, I mean, how far do you want to go?
That's scary in itself, but
Yeah, that's,
it's-
that's a
it's
controversial
almost
thing.
necessary,
Right.
You know?
Sure. Yeah, that's a controversial thing.
Because the
And
kids are so vulnerable to these, I don't want to say crazy kids, but, you know, essentially that's what they are. And everybody has their own opinion on things, but that nobody's getting punished for what they're doing. It's just a slap on the wrist saying, go
See,
do that.
we're not, we can't share information with you with what we're doing
That's
on.
fine. I'm not expecting.
Yeah, but I could tell you that we are aggressively making sure that if there's a situation where a student has done something that is significant, we're giving significant consequences and will. I'm telling you that we're not going to tolerate that. It can't. We cannot. We're going to do whatever we need to be sure that that student is not going to be in the school or whatever it's going to take, because, and we'll give them homeschooling or whatever it's going to take, because we have to keep the community at large safe. And so there's consequences being given. We believe that, okay, yeah, kids make mistakes, but there's certain mistakes, though, that can't be made either. That if it gets to be so blatantly ridiculous, they've left us no choice. And we're not afraid to give those consequences either. And I know the board stands behind that too. That they're concerned, and we are too. We're not going to allow kids to just do anything that they want, and we're going to just feel bad for them because they've done this. There's got to be consequences for your actions.
I think that, like Officer Beckles said, unfortunately it does kind of, you would like to say, okay, there's got to be a black and white standard. I don't think there is when you're dealing with people, right? I think you have to go case by case, and I think you have to ensure that that student is properly evaluated and you make the right decisions. And in some cases, you know, you take the hard line, and if it's not substantiated, then you bring the kid back or whatever and you deal with it. But I feel very confident that these guys are putting the time and effort into making sure that every case gets looked at and every case gets handled. The problem is we don't find out about it, right? And that's what's disturbing. And especially disturbing now because it's all in the news and we see it, right? And there's been how many 16, 18 incidents of gun in school since the first of the year, whatever. 18. And so it makes you feel like, man, it's coming to a school near us soon, right? And unfortunately, it just gives you that uneasy feeling. And I would like to know everything that's going on. I really would. But to Mr. Pempin's point, it's not always, they're not always able to do that. And from even a productive standpoint, you know, you don't, sometimes information is dangerous, and sometimes when things get out, you end up with what we had on Facebook, right, with people throwing things around that really aren't true, you know, and then it grows and it gets uglier and uglier. And I'm glad you guys came tonight. I'm glad you guys care enough to come and ask about it, because that's important, right? I know, and I know you guys, so right, so I know, you know, you have kids in the school, and I know how you handle your kids, you know, and the same with me, right? You know, I've talked to my kids. I've talked to them about not only you know, what would happen if anything ever did happen, but I've told my kids, don't ever say anything stupid. Don't joke around, because it will be taken seriously. And if they don't pull you out of school, I'll pull you out of school, you know? I mean, it's that important that you don't fool around with this kind of stuff. So, you know, you asked earlier, what can parents do? Make sure your kids understand that, and make sure that you guys talk to each other. And when you hear something out there, or you see something out there on Facebook that makes you get concerned and upset or angry, call the schools and get information, and keep calling and keep talking to somebody until you feel better about it, and you feel good about your kid coming in here every day, because that's what the district wants, that's what we want. You know, I feel good about my kids coming to school here every day, and you know, okay, I'm on the board, so I can pick up the phone. Well, guess what? Every one of you can pick up the phone too. These people will talk to you, they will give you information. And you know, from the other end, you know, I think everything that we can communicate, we should communicate, right? And again, you investigate every one of them, you kind of vet it out and determine whether or not there was a legit threat to the students in the school. But I think if you ever do determine there was a legit threat to the students in the school, that's when, you know, you need to be thinking about doing the automated call and get something out to everybody and say, look, this happened today, but we have it under control, your kids are safe. So, I mean, I agree, it's case by case. I just think that we have to communicate and keep talking back and forth. And if you hear more out there, tell more people to come to these meetings. And let's keep talking about it every month until people feel like we have it under control, because there might be things that these guys learn too. There's going to be things I know they're going to be talking over the coming days, weeks, months about how to make it better and how to do better. And there's, you know, we can always learn, we can always grow. So just keep talking and take care of your kids, you know.
Now, another quick question, last one. Is this kid, when he comes back, is he going to be monitored, like, separate? Somebody going to be holding his hand, watching him for, like, say, a week or two? Or is he just going to be let back into the pasture?
In this case, you know, the only thing that I can share with you is that you won't have to worry about this student at all. That's all I can say. It won't be a concern. Is that accurate, Lisa?
Yes.
One more thing I wanted to say too. There's never been a phone call to my desk here in school that I haven't called back. You know, there's been a number of complaints on Facebook that I've seen that never came to me. So I can't stress it enough. If I don't know anything about it, I can't do anything about it. Gotta call. You gotta have. If your kid comes to you with a complaint, I heard that this kid said this. If that's not going through the ranks to me, I mean, encourage them to call me, talk to me. So they see me, talk to me. You know, all these kids have the ability to do that. And if they're not comfortable doing it, my phone's always open. I can't encourage them enough.
Let me backtrack a little bit on the statement that I made too, because here's the thing with anybody in this community and with any situation. Nothing is ever guaranteed, unfortunately. And we're an open campus with doors and windows, and that's where everyone has to have an awareness, though, of where you are and what's happening. And so understand that when someone might not be allowed on a campus, that doesn't mean that they can't still come on a campus, because those things have happened in other communities. And so by me saying that that's not an issue, I can't guarantee that something might happen either, because nobody can guarantee anything like that, unfortunately. And going back to something that Chris said, we can always learn and we can always do better and we can always improve on everything. And I was at a meeting, another meeting tonight, and I happened to be when our meeting was done, I was just walking past a TV, and they were, of course, they were televising the recent events, and there was a school, and that's something we have to look at. They were calling it the safest school in America. And just quickly, what I was watching, what they were doing with drills was something that, you know, and you hate to even have to do this with students, but they were sitting on the floor. They arranged their chairs and desks in a way that would help to deflect bullets, unfortunately. They're holding up their books in front of them. Those aren't techniques that we've taught. But if that's going to help, we'll do anything that we need to help for that to happen. It's a shame that we've got, you know, young people in the audience that are our students that we have to even talk to them about this kind of stuff. It's just really too bad. But that's unfortunately the world we live in these days, and I don't know what to say about that. I feel it's heartbreaking that we even have to do this, that we have to have this discussion. but it is what, but if we don't do it, then shame on us too, because we better try to provide whatever we can in the best way that we can for your kids. And that's what we'll do.
And honestly, if I may add, I know I'm from the school district, but I'm also a parent, and I grew up in this community, of course, live in the community, and I think that the best thing we can do is not only take care of our children, but everybody's children, because we may be talking to our kids at home, obviously we're concerned about their safety and everybody's safety, but the more that we get kids involved and the more we help them have connections to other people and they don't feel lonely, and I know I read Officer Beckwith's post this weekend and I appreciated that as well. Oftentimes people feel alone, they can't express themselves, and it could lead to depression, it can lead to a lot of thoughts that are not healthy thoughts. And so even as little kids, that's why we need parents and community support in our buildings. It's Save the Way, we have community members that come in and read to students. We ask for watchdogs to come in, dads that can kind of come in. That's the whole point. We need people in our schools that are constantly, hey, good morning, how are you today? I mean, making eye contact and saying good morning to a child could make a huge difference in their lives. Some of our children, and I know if you're not in our schools all the time, you don't even realize, some of these kids truly do not have conversations with adults that are meaningful except at school. So it goes way beyond the schools, but it's our community that we just really need to look at and teach all of our parents how to really wrap themselves around their kids and have real conversations. You know,
well, so he's percent kids saying, oh, he probably needs to eat at home. Well, maybe he doesn't get enough hugs. Maybe he's, he's missing that one hug that every kid deserves.
Maybe people don't talk to him.
And that's
maybe it's as simple as that.
And that's what I stress to my girls, my basketball team this year is, you guys can come to me. Nothing is going to go outside unless I feel that you guys are in physical danger.
Right. Well, what about the kids that are not in sports? I mean, are they in Girl Scouts? Are they in Boy Scouts? Are they, what clubs and what activities do we have in this community?
It's amazing.
Boys and Girls Club is amazing. Every child needs to belong to something in our community. And those that aren't, they really need reached out to, and we need to, as a community, it takes a community to raise a kid, truly need to get that together and bridge it so that every kid just feels like they have somebody they can express their frustrations to and their concerns to all of the time. I mean, what about the long weekends? Some of them just spent 3 days at home. Maybe lack of food, lack of sleep, concerns, worries, maybe just video games. Those, we have to wrap our hands and arms around those kids and truly support them as a whole community and not just the schools.
All right, thank you. Thanks for coming in tonight, really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'll be around.
Thank you, everyone else, for the input. It's
Yes, thank you.
good to have people here. Okay, still on the superintendent's report, item 3.
Recommend a resolution to award a 1-year additional duties contract for the 2017-18 school year to Leah Innes, head middle school girls track coach, level 14, step 0.
I'll move. I'll second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Habermill,
Yes.
Mr. Stark,
Yes.
Mrs. Ennis,
Abstain.
Mrs. Russell,
Yes.
and Mrs. Stuck.
Yes.
Item B, the treasurer's report.
Number 1, recommend a resolution to accept the following donations. $100 to the Coach Matt Coble Scholarship Fund from Ralph and Nancy Mayer. $10 Starbucks gift card from school employees Lorraine County Credit Union to be used for meeting refreshments. $500 to the Sailor Way Instrumental Music Program from the Michael Sanderson Memorial Fund through Erie County Community Foundation. And $162.44 gift card from Brandywine Ski Resort to the VHS Ski Club from the Lowe family.
I'll move. Second.
Call the roll.
Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone? Mr. Habermill?
Yes.
Mrs. Russell?
Yes.
And Mr. Stark.
Yes.
Number 2, recommend a resolution to approve January 31st, 2008 financial reports.
So moved.
Second.
Sean?
Questions on it?
Sorry.
Probably.
Okay, as of the end of January, we're 58.3% through the year. Our revenues are in at 53%. We still have quite a bit of real estate revenue to come in for the first half of the calendar year. Our expenditures are at 57%, so we're still within our 58.3% target. Get the next page, please.
This one or the other one?
Yeah, that one, please. So here's the details of each of the receipt and expenditure line items. So like you can see right there, 47% of our real estate taxes has come in so far. And for the expenditures, we're at 56% on our salary and wages and 59% on our fringe benefits. And one of the reasons that is up is because we have the early severance plan payment. So we know that one's up a little bit. And then the supplies and materials and capital outlay, we've spent the majority of the money of those budget line items already this year. The capital outlay included the purchase of 2 new buses. House Bill 264, the debt, we've paid that off. We made our last payment in December, so that's done for the year. And 74% of our debt has been paid so far this year. Most of that's paid in December. So again, total 57% for our expenditures.
Anything else? Somebody hit the lights again, please. Yeah. Thanks. Okay. Any questions by anybody? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Stark?
Yes.
Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
Mr. Habermill?
Yes.
Mrs. Russell?
Yes.
And Mrs. Stark? Yes. Number 3, recommend a resolution to approve payment of the following: $3,555 to Discovery Tours for SMS Chicago trip, and $300 to Kurt Habermill for assisting with baseball during the 2018 season.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Call the roll.
Mrs. Russell?
Yes.
Mrs. Stout? Yes. Mr. Habermill?
I'll abstain.
Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
And Mr. Stark?
Yes.
Number 4, recommend a resolution authorizing participation in Ohio Schools Council cooperative advertising and receiving bids for school bus chassis and bodies. Whereas the Vermillion Local School District Board of Education wishes to advertise and receive bids for the purchase of 1 72-passenger conventional school bus chassis and body and 1 78-passenger conventional school bus chassis and body. Therefore, it is resolved that the Vermillion Local School District Board of Education wishes to participate and authorizes the Ohio Schools Council to advertise and receive bids on behalf of said board as per the specifications submitted for the cooperative purchase of the above described vehicles.
I'll move.
I'll second. Questions?
As we've talked about before, I've built into the forecast to purchase 2 buses each year.
Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
Mr. Habermill?
Yes.
Mrs. Russell?
Yes.
Mr. Stark?
Yes.
And Mrs. Stark?
Yes.
All right, item 10 is discussion items. We covered that. Item 11 is the consent agenda. The superintendent and treasurer recommend that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda items. Action by the board in adoption of the consent agenda means that all items are adopted by one single motion unless a member of the board, the treasurer, or the superintendent requests that any such item be removed from the consent agenda and voted on separately. Item A, approve the minutes of the following meetings as listed. Item B, approve the Vermillion High School participation in the state indoor track and field meet on March 3rd, 2018 in Geneva, Ohio. Item C, approve a contract for children with disabilities with Willard City Schools. Item D, approve a contract for children with disabilities with Amherst. Item E, approve employment separation agreement with James Basisson effective January 17th, 2018. Item F, approve memorandum of understanding with OPSI Local 332 regarding payment of longevity stipends to Gwendolyn Powell, Joyce Marks, and David Johnson. Item G, approve the following employment actions as listed on the agenda. Are there any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda? Okay, call the roll, please.
Oh, we need a
I'm sorry, we need a motion.
Second.
Motion.
Okay.
All right,
Ready?
now let it rip.
Mrs. Stepp?
Yes.
Mr. Stark?
Yes.
Mr. Habermill?
Yes.
Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
And Mrs. Russell?
Yes.
Item 13, public participation. We have a public participation section in every board meeting. If anyone wishes to step up to the mic and address the board, we just ask that you tell us who you are and go ahead and say what you have to say. So, anything? All right, wore you guys out. Item 14. Date and time of upcoming board meetings. We have a regular meeting on Monday, March 12th, regular meeting on Monday, April 9th, and a regular meeting on May 14th. It's good to see no special meetings on here. We've had quite a few. So everybody's good with those dates, right? Mm-hmm. All right, and then we're going to jump back. The original item 7 on our agenda was recommend a resolution to move into executive session for the purpose of employment or compensation of public employees. I'll move.
I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Stark?
Yes.
Mrs. Stepp?
Yes.
Mr. Habermill?
Yes.
Mrs. Ennis?
Yes.
And Mrs. Russell?
Yes.